Hey everybody, I have got a vegan pool party tonight to go to. I don't swim, I don't get in the water. I pretty much don't do anything that messes up my hair. But I do love to go to pool parties, especially, I love any kind of party where there's a bunch of vegans. They're all vegans tonight. We're all gonna just hang out and have a good time. And I can say, hey, I'll have one of those burgers. And I don't have to say vegan burger. I can just say burger because it's just understood that we're all going to be eating vegan. Oh man, it's so nice. Okay, kvetching. What good does it do me? Nothing, but you're watching, I'm kvetching. I'm going to talk now about a video clip I have from a guy. Well, it's not from him. It's from somebody else. Actually, they just sent me a link to say, check this out. It's a vegan dude talking to Cliffe Knechtle. I adore Cliffe Knechtle, and I hope I got his name right. He seems like a good enough guy to where if I mispronounce his last name, he's probably had it his whole life, and it probably doesn't bug him at all, but I'm sorry if I did, but I think it's Knechtle. Cliffe and his son Stuart, Cliffe and Stuart, they do a show, I think it's a YouTube channel, or maybe it's a podcast too, I don't know. It's called Give Me an Answer, and he just defends the Christian faith so well. He does really, really good. I think I have seen, a few times where he did get his butt kicked. I think Cosmic Skeptic, what's his name, Alex O'Connor, he's a big time atheist guy. Really like him a lot too, even though he flipped on being vegan. But I do think Alex got the best of Cliffe in a couple things. But for the most part, Cliffe is just an amazing defender of the faith. So I would recommend him to any of my Christian viewers. But I know a lot of the people that view my channel are not Christian. They're just animal rights activists that want to know how to talk to Christians. Cool. That's what I want to do with my channel. So I'm only going to show you part of this clip that was brought to my attention, because in the rest of the clip, he goes on defending the faith. I just want to deal with the vegan part that's at the beginning of the clip. Or is it the beginning here or here? I don't know. You'll see. So let's just play it. The vegan guy, I'm telling you right now, the guy talking in the red shirt, he is vegan. We'll find that out later on. But just to know in advance, I think he was a little bit nervous. If you look at his body language, I think it was nervous. I don't know if it's because he knew he was on camera, or maybe, just public speaking was not his thing. Because when Cliffe talks, he stands in colleges and these people just gather around and he just does his thing. That can be intimidating to somebody who doesn't do public speaking a lot. It's not everybody was brought up on stage juggling bowling balls like me, so I'm kind of used to it, but he seemed nervous, and so cut him some slack. Don't get on his case because his question's all over there. Let me bring him into the room with this button and hit play.
But pets also have the ability to love us and adapt connections in forms of mother beings, like cows. Some other cows mourn off of the loss of their children. It's been, documented in animal rights cases and stuff like that.
Yes.
There's also, the image of other sentient life, that's able to feel pain and also feel love in the sentiment. So how come, they're not also included in the image of God, as only humans use sort of.
I think he's going into, since animals have instincts like the motherly instinct he was talking about and all these other things that are similar to what people have, how come only people, humans, are considered made in the image of God and not animals? I think that's the question he's trying to get across. But I think he's all over the place, again, because of nervousness. I think it's nervousness, but...
ego boosts, it's like we are, the children of God, and so we're like the dominatrix over this materials, you know what I mean?
So what do you eat 3 times a day? Do you ever eat cow? Beef?
No.
You're a vegetarian?
Vegan, yes sir.
A vegan, yes sir.
From that question, Cliffe was the guy with the white pants, or over here. There we go. Blue shirt, white pants. And Cliffe is the Christian apologist I told you about, who I think is great. I think he was trying to bring this in a direction where he could slap this guy down really bad. I don't think he was prepared for this guy to say he was vegan or vegetarian. If Cliffe was to continue and say, what do you eat 3 times a day? And this guy was to say animals, he would have had a much different argument than he's going to make coming up. But the guy didn't. He said he's vegan, so let's keep rolling.
Okay, I respect you for being a vegan.
I respect you for being a vegan, Cliff says. Of course, Cliff is going to respect him for being vegan. Actually, I would wonder why any Christian wouldn't respect a vegan, because a vegan is just living out the principles that God wants us to live, to cause the least amount of harm. Look, we live in a world, a sin-filled world, where sin is now in charge. It's not the way God wanted it in Genesis chapter 1. Sin entered the world in Genesis chapter 3, and we are living under a curse. And in this curse, we can't be sinless. Things are going to die. But as a Christian, our goal is to do the least amount of harm as possible, which is the same goal as veganism, causing the least amount of harm to God's creation, the animals. So when Cliff says, I respect you for being vegan, of course you do, Cliff. And if you didn't, I would wonder about you. Okay, let's go.
Vegan. But I hope you realize that when you cut a head of lettuce, there is pain that the lettuce is experiencing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, what's bad is it's not just that Cliff said when you cut a head of lettuce, it feels pain. It's that vegan dude said yes. I don't think he meant it. I think he was just rolling with it because, again, the pressure. But do plants feel pain? You know, the answer to that is no, they don't. Plants have no capacity to suffer. They don't have a central nervous system. They don't have a brain. They don't have sentience. They are not aware. They are reactive. They can react to stimuli. They can, I don't know how to say it. Let me, everybody always picks on me for my hair. Let me use my hair as an example. Hair has all these little follicles on it. Let's call it like little shields on the outside. And when you shampoo, those shields open up. Okay? Because of the acidicness of the shampoo. When you put on conditioner, they close. Now, when I cut my hair, or you cut your hair, okay, you have the same kind of hair with the opening and closing of cuticles. They are reacting to stimulus around them. Do you feel pain when you get your hair cut? I have to ask you that because it's been so long since I had one, I don't remember. As a joke, folks. Okay, not a very good joke. But, so yes, plants, like our hair, can react to things. They can react to damage. Plants can react to damage. They can release chemicals. They can send electrical signals when they are being chewed on by bugs and things like that. But this is a stimulus response. This is not feeling like animals feel, like people feel. They don't have what it takes. Pain requires a nervous system. It requires a brain. It requires consciousness. Plants have none of that. So I don't know why a well-educated man like Cliff would say that. Everything I read written by neuroscientists and plant biologists, and I did go look up quite a few of those online because people keep hitting me with this plant thing, and I wanted to hear what the experts had to say. They said that while plants can sense their environments, they still have no evidence that sensing their environment equals pain. So Cliff, no, a head of lettuce, I'm looking at Cliff now. Cliff, a head of lettuce, it has no neurons, it has no brain, it has no central processing system. It does not feel pain. I'm going to get to a Bible-based answer, but I just wanted to go with that first to start off with. And let's bring him back on screen and see what he has to say.
So if there's pain from cutting a head of lettuce, then...
See, that's the hard part, because nervous vegan guy said yes to plants feeling pain. Cliff is running with that. And it's making an argument that really doesn't even exist, but it's existing in that moment because now these people are just rolling with it, and nervous guy has to accept it because he's already agreed.
And why would you cut a head of lettuce and chomp on it, destroy it, and eat it?
Because it's not sentient. It doesn't have the cognitive abilities to express the neurological system of pain, right? So we
see, that's why I said earlier, I don't think he meant it when he said yes, because now he's saying that they don't. So again, did you get the idea on why I'm thinking he's just nervous and not giving as well of a discussion as he could? It's okay.
Have this neurons and stuff to express the moment of pain, right? So if you cut a cow, the cow can react based off of these electrons and this movement and these muscle tightenings, you know, oh, I'm contracting because of this pain. But lettuce doesn't have any neurons or muscles or anything like that. They're just more or less like I don't know specifically the anatomy of lettuce, but I know they don't have neurons to initiate or an endocrine system to release.
I jumped forward in this video a little bit because he just said everything to Cliffe that I just told you, so there's no reason to hear him do it again. And okay, back to our program.
Hormones and chemicals for this pain, but they do have an electric signal. I will give you that. You know, live plants have pulses that we can calculate based off if we were to mangle them. You know, you tear a leaf off, it reacts, but it doesn't mean it's technically feeling the concept of what we consider pain. You know.
Well, if a head of lettuce reacts, and obviously it's not a very pleasurable reaction.
Yeah.
If a head of lettuce reacts, it's not a pleasurable reaction. The kid wasn't able to produce any scientific studies, but anybody who's watching right now, you can just Google it, do plants feel pain? You're going to get one or two wackadoodles that say yes, they do, and every other bit of science is going to say no, they don't. I don't know why. I don't get the impression that Cliffe really believes plants feel pain. And this, let me see, did he actually just say that again? Let me just rewind it just a little.
Based off if we were to mangle them, you know, you tear a leaf off, it reacts, but it doesn't mean it's technically.
Because the kid is saying the plants react, but they don't feel pain. At least now he is. And then Cliffe comes back with
really the concept of what we consider pain, you know.
Well, if a head of lettuce reacts, and obviously it's not a very pleasurable reaction when you cut it, why would you do such violence to a head of lettuce?
I think the kid is trying to move on, and Cliffe is digging his heels into that lettuce thing. I think a lot of times Christian apologists, or at least pastors or people that I discuss veganism with, will do this because they don't want to have to face the fact that if plants don't feel pain, well, then they have to accept and you know what? Let me just put it this way. Cliffe, if I was to take a head of lettuce and a puppy dog and throw them in the lake, and they were both sinking, which one, Cliffe, would you save? All right, would you save the head of lettuce, Cliffe, because it feels pain? Come on, he does. You know what? I'm changing my mind. I don't think even Cliffe believes what he's talking about right now. I think he's going to try and make a point. I wonder. Let's see where it goes.
Why?
Well, the argument is that animal agriculture is what we use most of our land on, based off of land resources, right? So we use most of our land for specifically animal agriculture. We have a whole, garden of corn specifically raised for animals, just for them to slaughter. Instead of using the land for corn for animals, we could have used the land for crops for ourselves, right? So I guess my base argument is it's not that the fact that the corns don't have feelings, and it's not the fact that the corn doesn't and the lettuce doesn't matter.
Right.
It's just that the ability for us to cope and have empathy for the cows is more drastically needed in comparison to the heads of lettuce, because nobody can just say, oh, this lettuce is crying, but you look at a cow and the cow genuinely has tears running down its face and is sobbing with mucus. You can have empathy for that based off of reactions of other humans you've experienced. You know what I'm saying?
So why is a human being valuable?
Okay.
Obviously, if we're just...
This is where he starts to go into a defense for why humans are valuable, or more valuable than plants. And I think he wants to connect it to animals, but he's going to get out of it. Let's see.
Sentient beings, obviously, if we're very similar to cows or porpoises, and obviously if we're very similar to heads of lettuce, then why is a human...
Similar to heads of lettuce. I got to get to the biblical defense of this soon.
Being valuable? Why? In your worldview?
In my worldview, it's the potential of everybody's, how you say, holiness. We all
right. We're going to let that video end there. This is where Cliffe starts to bring it to why are humans more valuable than animals or more valuable than heads of lettuce. And it's because we're made in God's image. We have a worth that is given to us by our Creator. Again, we're talking about Christian stuff here, so I'm not trying to convince you guys of this, I'm just trying to get across what's going on here. The better argument for nervous vegan dude talking to Cliffe would have been along the lines of just using what Cliffe already believes. And that's what I try to teach in my book, is that are there other arguments? Yeah, there are other arguments you can use. There's scientific arguments, things. But if a Christian believes what's in the Bible, if you can use what's in the Bible, the argument doesn't become between Cliffe and nervous vegan guy. It becomes between Cliffe and God. So I would have said, let me just read over Genesis chapter 1, verse 30. To every beast of the earth and to every fowl of the air and to everything that creeps on the earth, wherein there is life. And that word life is nephesh, which means soul. I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so. So in verse 30, God includes, this is God, Moses is saying it on God's part, but God is including humans, beasts, birds, animals, all in this list of creations wherein there is life. But did you notice he didn't say plants in that list? Let me say it to you again. Everything upon the earth wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat or food. That word meat also means food. It depends on what translation you're reading. I know, it makes it hard to do vegan advocacy when the Bible keeps throwing in the word meat when it means food. Again, a whole other chapter in my book. It's ridiculous. But in verse 30, God gives us a list of the animals that have life, a nephesh life, a soul life, which is animals and humans alike. And to them, plants were given. So it's pretty obvious that plants do not have the same kind of life force. You can end their existence. You can stop them from continuing, but you're not ending a nephesh, a soul, a human animal kind of life that God made distinctly different from the plant life. So did God make humans and animals different? Yeah, but he also made humans and animals and plants different. So I would use Genesis chapter 1, verse 30 as defense against the plants feel pain argument. And why Cliffe did this, I don't know. I like Cliffe a lot, and it just seemed below him. I'm going to guess that his goal was to bring this guy in a different direction, which is to prove morals are not relative, and that this guy's morals on not hurting animals are baseless, unless, of course, there's a God. Now, I have this argument with my atheist friends all the time, too. And this argument not only goes with vegan atheists and vegan Christians, but with just atheists and Christians in general on where morals come from. And if morals are relative, then how do we determine what right and wrong is? How can we say animals do not deserve to be abused? It's a long discussion. I'm not going to do it here now, especially when I got a pool party full of vegan food and hot vegan girls in tiny little bikinis. So, all right, I'm going to let it go at that. I'm off to my party. Till the next one, peace, love, and all things groovy. I'm out.